Welcome into Hold My Banner. Kasey, Hudson back alongside Ountae, Campbell. I feel like I got evicted from the show and now I'm back to crashing. But
No, never evicted. We always wanted you here. You're always welcome on Hold My Banner. They love you. They love you.
I was fishing for the compliment because till this day, Ountae has never said we've always wanted you here. So I finally got it. But what a better time to be able to get back alongside and chit chat, because now we are in that time of the year. Tis the season. Off season. Yeah. It's rumor mill, it's conversations, it's this is what we hope to do, this is what we think we're going to do. It's the financial crippling, it's the Celtics pulled off magic. It's a lot of different things that we have heard. So diving into the nitty-gritty of the off-season moves and potential, there's a couple names circling around that we could potentially narrow in on. What do you think about the two names that we're going to dive into between Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal? Your response, I wanted it to be authentic. This is why I teed it up like this. I haven't asked Ante's opinion on any of this, and usually I harass him in the bullpen to be like, come on, give me a little insight of where you're going on it. But when I saw these names on the rundown, I was like, yep, I'm going to get a reaction out of him. So let's start with Damian Lillard.
All right, well, before we start with Dame, obviously we got to talk about the fact that Jrue Holiday is in his old home, as we can see here. He got a warm welcome. And PDX, for those that don't know, that's Portland and Portland's airport, actually. For those who really don't know. And I mean, if you watch this video, first of all, Jrue, shout out to you. I always said that I didn't want him to be traded, but he looks peeved. I'm gonna use.
I was like, where are you going with this?
I'm gonna use the correct word, peeved, throughout this entire video. I'm not sure I saw him collect one smile or crack one smile.
I don't think I've seen him breathe yet. I didn't mean to skirt over this, by the way. I know the Jrue Holiday love is real.
Yeah.
Has he breathed yet? Has he taken a breath?
I don't think so. You can see in the second half of the video, they just keep showing off his kids because
that's where the joy is.
That's where all the happiness is. But yeah, shout out to Jrue. Obviously, I'm gonna start off by talking about with Damian Lillard because of the Portland connection.
Well, that's where I thought the Twitch came in, so go for it.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about Dame. I talked to Adam last episode about Dame and whether this would be a good opportunity for him or Boston and all this other stuff. And the main thing about seeing Damian Lillard in Celtics green that I'm nervous about is he going to be the Damian Lillard that takes 20 shots a game? That's the honest question. Because if he's going to come in and take 20 shots a game, he's obviously dealing with an Achilles injury as well, projected to be out the entire upcoming season with Jayson Tatum out also. So, coming back in that next year, it's a year to kind of see Tatum to test the waters, to figure out where he is as an NBA player. I would rather see him taking 30 shots a game than seeing Dame coming in trying to figure out who he is as an NBA player at 37 years old at that point.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, if we have a Dame that comes in humbled and understands that, hey, this isn't my ship. These guys got it. I'm just here to be in a tertiary, maybe even, fourth option kind of role here in Boston, then I would love to see Dame here for a cheap deal, a veteran minimum, $3.4 million, somewhere around there. Why not?
I would say why not, but then I'd be a hypocrite because one of the times that I've been here on Hold My Banner, his name started popping around, but then I tied it back to the injury. Yeah. I don't think we need to be doing a what's to come question mark on more than one player outside of your star player.
Fair.
And that makes me nervous in a number of ways because I was chatting with a friend in the New York market the other day who covers the Knicks, and he was giving some praise to Brad Stevens and the Celtics and how they started to get under the apron situation.
Yeah.
And while we were having this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, why would you go ballistic this offseason? Why would you try to bring in so many pieces when you don't know what Jayson Tatum you're going to get back when he gets back?
Right.
And yeah, he's a superstar. Medicine's different these days. We can do all of these things to supplement the fact that you're going to get your superstar back in a lineup. But then also once you get him back, the workload around him, in my personal opinion, has to change.
Right.
It's great that he can do it all. You can't count on him to do it all the time, or else you're looking at a team that's going to constantly get knocked out of the postseason as the NBA landscape changes. So that's going to completely go against my argument of Damian Lillard because I'm hearing I can't break down his game.
Yes.
I'm hearing he doesn't have that much defensive upside.
No, he doesn't.
Okay,
He's
so
never
he
been
can
a
bring
good
in a
defender.
couple, not a couple extra points, but north of 20 points. You talk about attitude, you know, if he doesn't know how to kind of put himself on the second tier there and be in more of a supportive role, and then you're coming off of an injury, and then we're sitting here going, what if? It feels like a waste of money, even if it comes at a low value.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that. But once again, the Celtics point guard situation is a little iffy right now. You know what I'm saying?
It's slim.
Anfernee Simons, we don't know what he's going to be. We don't even know if he's going to be here when Tatum is ready to play.
Another what if.
You know.
Yeah.
Peyton Pritchard's a great player. I personally don't want to see him in the starting role. You know what I mean? I think that he does a lot of great things offensively, like you're talking about, but the defensive upside, once again, lacks with him. You know what I'm saying? So if I'm going to look at a guy like Damian Lillard, you know, former MVP candidate, multiple-time All-Star, you know what I mean, multiple-time All-NBA, however you want to stack it. He's won a lot of awards in this NBA, or been close to winning a lot of awards in this NBA. You're talking about a guy, like you said, upwards of 20 points. It's 24 points a game, 37% shooting from three on a down year. on a down year. Like, what are we talking about? You know what I mean? This dude's shooting 9 threes a game for the Milwaukee Bucks. He won't even be asked to do that. So when we're talking about the shots and the shot attempts that he's going to be able to take, and that Tatum's energy is going to generate for him, and Jaylen Brown's energy and gravity is going to generate for him, I mean, he's going to be getting wide open looks. Not to say that Giannis wasn't giving him wide open looks, but I say with this Celtics team and their pacing and their spacing and just the way they play and the way Mazzulla has these dudes reeling. Yeah, man. I mean, this dude's going to end up getting 9 looks a game, and they're going to be good looks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just don't necessarily think he might only take 7, because 2 of the ones that he takes for Milwaukee are from half court. He doesn't need to do that with this Boston Celtics team, and I think he's going to start in a lesser role. He's always had to be the guy.
Okay.
Always had to be the guy. Now he's got to have an opportunity coming off an Achilles to understand I can play behind 2 stars, not just one with Giannis.
Let's not leave out Brown.
But 2 stars, right. And I can fit in here and make something shake.
Okay, so you're thinking more on the account of, like, if he can accept having a bit of a smaller role but still be efficient, then it would be worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about defense. Defense matters. It matters. But you're talking about losing 11 points a game with Jrue Holiday, the 24 points a game, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So even if he reduces down to a guy who's 17 points a game.
So you're replacing a veteran presence, you're getting more points, and you're not being too worried about the defensive upside or lack thereof.
100%. And a dude who's never rattled. I mean, you're talking about a guy who hits big shot after big shot after big shot in the postseason, right?
Yeah.
He's been that guy. He's never in his prime did he have a Giannis or somebody like that next to him. He had some good players. He had a LaMarcus Aldridge when he was younger, you know what I'm saying, who was a great NBA power forward all time. But as he got into his prime, it was just him and CJ McCollum. And so now you're going to have him out of his prime, admittedly, but with the Jayson Tatum and the Jaylen Brown, I think that offensively and the Derek White, I think we can make something work there. You know what I'm saying? Defensively, there's going to be questions.
All right, so before I pivot off of him, here's my question. He comes in, can't particularly contribute right away.
Yes.
He's still on a healing journey,
yes,
but the efficiency is there. He accepts having a smaller role.
Yeah.
We get him at a bargain deal. How long? What is the term that the Celtics should bring him in on?
I feel like I think they should do 2. Like, if they're going to sign him this year, you know what I mean, this summer, I think they should do a 2-year vet minimum deal with him. Obviously, the first year is the rehab year. And then after that, you know, you see how the first year goes. It's low stakes. You're still trying to figure out who Jayson Tatum is. I'm all right with that, right? And then at the end of that year, towards the middle of that year, you can talk extension if he wants to do a 1-year extension, or maybe a 2-year with a team option or a player option. You know, at that point, we'll be talking about a guy who's getting close to 40. So we have to see who Damian Lillard is first before we commit to a 3-year deal.
We have to see which risk fans actually want to take, because another name that's getting kicked around feels like such a lame term to use on Hold My Banner, but Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
He's a name that's being thrown in the pot.
Yeah, shout out to us. We're actually the ones, we wrote an article that's linking Bradley Beal to the the Celtics this year. So, you know, Tatum and him obviously went to the same high school. They grew up together. They're both, you know, St. Louis natives and all of that, and they have a good friendship as well. You know, we talked about Bradley Beal or Damian Lillard, and we didn't bring up the fact that him and Tatum have built the kind of relationship over over the last couple of years. Bradley Beal is also a guy who's built, a relationship over his entire life with this guy. I want to ask you, how do you think that would fit? Like, I know Bradley Beal's kind of a name that people are, hating on in the streets.
I know.
So
he's getting a few blemishes on his name.
Yeah, Travis Thomas is not, too fond of his game. I'm just saying.
Travis Thomas and I are not always lockstep, though. Yeah. We have learned this, especially here on Hold My Banner. For me, look, especially when you're still trying to figure out or re-identify a team, any sort of connectivity, and they've probably heard me talk about this at nauseum on the Hockey Hub. I think that chemistry kind of helps level up and gear a team closer to having an identity than when you're trying to plug and play all of these pieces and then play out where that chemistry starts to come in a line. So even just knowing each other as boys, that can help because you know your boys' game.
Right.
You got a good read on them. You know their attitude, so you know how to approach them as you guys are trying to work through learning the system together. So I feel like there's always going to be a little bit of an edge and an upside in that. Also, if you're looking at the numbers in comparison and taking health out of it, I feel like it's being taken a little bit more seriously for Beal to work on the defensive side of his game.
Yeah, he still sucks defensively right now, but yes.
I didn't say he was good. Right. I said taking the time and the effort to work on being less sucky defensively. Okay? If I got to use the right terminology for basketball fans, but still, so like, we don't know what to expect. It goes back to the what ifs that I opened up with. So like, I want somebody who is going to be a little bit more open-minded attitude-wise in terms of be like, look, we're going against this team. Like the amount of teams that are so defensively stout, they're going to try to be more defensively focused in the upcoming season. You're going to want somebody that's going to at least take it seriously to be like, I got to figure out how to get a little bit more clean here. Now, we all know I'm a research nerd, so when I'm looking at the defensive kind of downsides for both Lillard as well as Beal, and you can correct me on this, it was more so like reading screens was kind of a big deal. Well, look at the team that just won a championship, screening their life away. And then the teams right up underneath them in support. And then you're talking about an old team like the Warriors. They still can, outwork their opponents by being good with screening. So like when you're looking at little parts and assets of their game, which guy is going to try to work on something like that to actually compete? Yeah,
I mean, that's an important piece. I think when you're looking at a Bradley Beal, you have to consider the fact that he played for that Phoenix Suns team that just mentally wasn't there. They weren't together. When you play I've played for teams like that before where you're just not locked in. And
the buy-in sucks. The locker room sucks. Like, how do you get excited to do anything for that?
And defense is going to be one of the first things to go because, like, scoring gets you paid. You know what I'm saying? And defense gets you paid, too. But when you're a guy of Bradley Beal's caliber and age and you're known to be a scorer, scoring gets you paid. So it's like, I'm going to spend all of my money and energy on scoring this basketball. And then on the defensive end, I might take a couple plays off. the other guy's doing it. You know what I'm saying?
I see what you're saying.
He might be saying that. If he came to Boston, we could see an increased energy to start off. I think the thing that we do have to point out too is, and we'll listen to Brad here in a second, he keeps talking about winning. If you want to talk about next year, Dame or Brad, Dame's kind of a future play. Brad can help this team win this upcoming season. You know what I mean? So it might be a situation where, hey, for a cheap deal, once again, veteran minimum, we still have some deals that are left to be made probably anyways. Like, why not try and go and get Brad Beal and help this team try to win games? Because that's what it seems like Brad is focused on, still trying to win in this year of 2025, 2026 coming up. If he can, if I would have to choose right now, personally, people might hate me for it, but I'd probably choose Bradley Beal.
That's where I'm leaning. If my whole spiel didn't give it away, that's where I'm going. And then just to get your take really quick before we toss it to Brad, I feel like when you mentioned the mental aspect, the Celtics locker room, regardless of what adversity they went through, regardless of anybody calling from Missoula's head, whatever the case may be, it seems like there's a bond there.
Yeah, it seems like it. We'll talk about Georges Niang and how he's going to affect that bond a little bit later.
Well, before that, let's hear Brad Stevens' thoughts on the offseason right here on Hold My Banner.
Hey, Brad. Regarding the signings of Luka Garza and Josh Minott, what did you see in them that led to those moves, and what's your expectations for them coming here?
I think one of the things that obviously we've been limited in the, what tools we can use with where we are right around the second apron. And so we're looking for guys on those contracts that have upside, that are competitors, that are workers, that want to be good, that haven't hit their peak yet, but we've seen something in them that we think gives them a chance to be very impactful. Luka obviously has been a stats darling, but in limited time behind very, very good players. And same thing with Minot. Minot is a guy that brings a lot of versatility to the table. Is a person that can guard several positions, can shoot a little bit, but plays with great energy and length. And both those guys really rebound. And so, as we have a team that is being retooled, right? I think the biggest thing is that bringing in guys that can complement our best players and our core, but also have some upside and maybe some unrealized upside thus far. And so, and they were in a great situation. They were coached by a great coach in Chris Finch, in a great organization with a ton of talent, and they're used to winning. I like that too.
And Peyton is someone who always talks about challenging himself, having a growth mindset. What are the keys coming off a career year to maximizing the opportunity that's in front of him next season?
Peyton Pritchard?
Yes.
I haven't thought a ton about how much roster change will change Peyton Pritchard's work ethic, because it's always at the highest. He's as good as it gets with his work. So Peyton will prioritize winning, which he always has, and will continue to grow in his game, which he always has. That's what he does. That's who he is. I've said many times, loves basketball, and that love basketball, loves to compete, loves to play hard. Those factors all matter. We had those with the guys we lost, and we will be continuing to look for those with the guys we bring in.
Brad, you sort of mentioned it in your opening statement. It's always hard to trade guys like Jrue and Kristaps, but there's been all the talk of like financial situations and aprons and luxury taxes. I'm curious how much the second apron penalties came into those two trades, as well as luxury taxes, because you guys have been a second apron team for 2 years before those.
I mean, the second apron's why those trades happen. I think that those are pretty obvious. And the basketball penalties associated with those are real. We've all talked about that. And but we were fortunate because we liked the guys we got back, and I think that that's one of the things that, we are excited about. But yeah, like Jrue Holiday is I think he stamped his Hall of Famer candidacy here, if he didn't already have it. And we'll look forward to watching and again rooting and following him from afar. But he's as good of a person as you could ever have in your building and as part of your team. And KP, he fought some of the stuff health-wise in the last 2 years, but when he played, he was awfully good, and we think he'll be awfully good for Atlanta this year. And so again, yeah, those are not easy trades to make. Those are not easy phone calls. Obviously, those guys have been around the league a long time. They knew the CBA. They knew that was a high likelihood that they could be part of a move, and they were communicated that before. But it's still hard when you are. But again, we will miss them, and we're thankful for them.
And then what about those two guys, Anfernee and Georges, made you target them in those types of trades?
Well, I just think one at a time. I think Anfernee is a guy that people out here probably don't see as much because of the time that they play. But his ability to score, his ability to shoot the ball, make really hard shots is pretty elite. And you look at a guy that's 26 years old that's averaged 20 a game for 3 straight years. I think he's a really good player, and I think he can get better, and that's a big part of it. And then Niang has just added value to winning on each team he's been on, and he's a pain to play against, which I very much admire. And he knows what he does well, and he knows how to bring out the best in his group. It's not a coincidence that he was a part of the rotation on those really good Philly teams. He was a part of the rotation this year in Cleveland before the trade. Like, guy is a winner, knows how to play, knows how to bring out the best in people, and happy he's here.
Me? At least from the outside coming into this season, the expectations, the outlook will likely be different this season. So insofar as you're concerned, as a guy who runs the organization, expectations for this season?
my expectations are always the same. Compete like hell to win the next game. You know, like that's always going to be it. That will always be it. And that's the way that we're going to try to put our foot forward. We've got some new guys. We've got some guys that'll have to take on extra, extra in their roles. But we believe in the guys that have been in the building, and we look forward to getting the guys that haven't, and all working together to try to create a team that functions well together and plays hard as hell. And that'll be it. I've said many times that the North Star for me is winning championships, and this is without question. When you trade guys like Jrue and KP, there's some retooling going on. But the one thing that when I was coaching, when the term rebuild came up, I thought it was a crazy term. None of us were here before, so it should be build, right? You're always building and growing towards something. And for this group, we've got so many guys back that are really good players that's not going to be part of the lexicon in our building. And that's the way we're going to focus moving forward.
There goes that word that we love to use. Retool.
Retool. Yep.
Retool. And I've never heard a guy try to change what rebuild means, because we're always building. But it could be some hopeful glimmers in that. We heard from Brad Stevens and what he's thinking of the offseason thus far, but we will find out what the fans are thinking and feeling on the other side of this quick break. Don't go anywhere. Continue to hang out with Ountae and myself on the other side here on Hold My Banner.
Welcome back to Hold My Banner. And as you can see, Celtics Unite is sending out some spiritual energy. Trying to get Georges Niang traded with a video of Pascal Siakam rolling his eyes back before Game 6 of the NBA Finals this year.
Holy crap.
Oh, my gosh. All right,
That
Kasey.
is some real Emily Rose looking eyes if I've ever seen them. I chose to wait for a natural reaction to that, so that is why I needed Ountae to bring the energy on what that meant, because that's terrifying. But yeah, you're talking about real diehard rituals there to trade
they're
this
speaking
man.
that. You talk about speaking stuff into existence. They're spiritually speaking things into existence.
Hold that banner. Okay, but really quick. So Celtics Unite obviously wants a trade here. Can you unpack this just a little further for me, or any fans that are just looking at the scope of this situation and not understanding what is this?
I mean, okay, first of all, I have to start off with Georges Niang is from Lawrence. So he's from Massachusetts originally.
He's a Mass boy.
He is.
Okay.
And, I think Celtics fans are just a little upset with him because they don't forget. They're petty like me and Travis. But they don't forget.
Y'all fit the DNA, hence why you're here.
Yes. And so, they remember back when he was on the 76ers, he grabbed Jaylen Brown's knee on the bench randomly out of nowhere. Jaylen Brown went towards the bench. He held his knee back so that he couldn't get back on the court. And Jaylen Brown had to chirp at him and say some things. And then going back to last year during the NBA Cup, Jayson Tatum had an opportunity to, go one-on-one against Georges Niang. He dropped him to the floor, made him touch earth, as we basketball players like to say, touch earth. And after he hit the shot, he hit him with the, F out of here, F out of here. You know what I'm saying? So the Celtics players have shown, at least the two heads of the monster have shown that they don't really like this guy. And so, Boston Celtics fans are always going to roll with the Jays on anything. So
the Jays over the G. This is great tea. Thank you for that.
Yes.
I wasn't fully informed on the earth and all of those things, but I knew that the minute that this news broke, the internet didn't do what it typically does when we get Boston Celtics news.
Right.
And it was very much we're doing what? I saw eyeballs. I saw a number of things. I didn't do my investigative journalism at the time. All right, so we got the temperature check on that.
Yes.
Jumping ahead, we got Metro Busman, 8620. I had a lot of love for this username, apparently, on Anfernee Simons.
Yes.
Now, I'm not understanding some of the extra, I don't want to call it hate, but I'm getting different degrees of welcome for Simons here. Celtic fan from Blazerland, I had to say it, guys, sorry. Here, Simons is a bit more controversial than Bostonians seem to realize. Maybe he can be reformed. We always like a reforming opportunity.
Yes,
but he clashed with Billups and teammates about his lack of effort on defense. That's highlighted and underlined for me. Not passing the ball. No, kid, you're not going to come here and do that. Putting up stupid shots at critical moments.
Yes.
All right, I'll start.
Go
Does
ahead.
this concern me? if you don't have the right attitude, I already don't mess with you on a human level.
Right.
On a teammate level, that's the best way to start becoming a mental fracture to a locker room. And we just talked about what the mental might be for this Boston Celtics locker room.
Yes.
Now you give me the tea on George or Georges Niang, whatever he calls himself, and I'm concerned if reading this.
Yes.
What can you add to this?
Look, here's what I'm going to say. You have to understand the mind of a player who's gone through the things that he's went through.
Age.
This is the first kid to come out of high school in years of NBA basketball. He was drafted out of high school. Then he comes onto a team with 2 NBA stars at the time, CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard. And he spends his time and he takes the time to learn under these dudes. He doesn't complain. He doesn't moan. He understands, hey, these are 2 NBA All-Stars in front of me. I'm going to put in the work. I'm going to do everything I can to learn out of these guys. And guess what? I told you before. He comes in and he plays exactly like a young Damian Lillard on the offensive end. He's not as good. He's not as talented, but he does a lot of the same things. He shoots the ball from deep.
The characteristics are there.
He plays off the ball screens really, really well. You can see that he's a product of being around a CJ McCollum and a Damian Lillard. Now, after going through that and playing with those teams and being there for a lot of those big game shots that we were talking about with Dame and all this other stuff, you go from that to going to which some people, I'm not saying it myself, but some people call one of the worst coaches in the NBA in Chauncey Billups.
Okay.
And then you're surrounded by young guys who have no idea what it takes to win an NBA game.
I see.
And then you put on top of the fact that he's in rainy Portland every day. If you're that guy, eventually you're going to get tired of being in the monotony of being in Portland and not winning year in and year out.
Right.
If I'm him, no offense to the other guys on the team, but I'm looking around and I'm saying, man, I can really fill it up. Why would I throw it to Donovan Klingler in the post? He's not going to do anything with it. You know what I'm saying? Why would I swing it to Scoot Henderson knowing that he can't really shoot the ball right now in his development?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? These are some of the great young players that Portland has and are going to make their ways and their strides to get there. But he wants to win.
Yeah.
So he's going to try to do things that helps his team win the game, which means sometimes you got to pull a Kobe and take a shot that you're not supposed to, right? Sometimes you got to do things like that to try to will your team to win. He saw Dame do it. He saw CJ do it. And when they did it, it wasn't considered a bad shot. But for this kid, it is just because this team isn't winning. That's not fair. So I think that he has some ability to learn, to grow, to accept the fact that, hey, I'm with a championship-winning team now. Culture, franchise, not just a team, a franchise. 18 championships, most in NBA history. If he does get a chance to play for this Boston Celtics team, I think that he will try to play the right way.
Okay, I actually really like the insight on that, because when you point out the potential controversy around what people think of this head coach, you come out of high school, you know, the rarity of that, consider the stars that you're being compared to be able to be pulled out of high school, drafted out of high school. But more importantly, Portland, just describing that. We just saw Jrue Holiday, who looked far from excited to even roll up it there. And he's at least a veteran in this league that has the accolades under his belt to just be like, all right, this is the next chapter of my career.
Yes.
All of that into context. Maybe sometimes some of that selfish shooting was the fact that he doesn't agree with the looks that his coach was seeing.
Right.
And when you're constantly in a rebuild, a real rebuild, you're going to get so frustrated, because how do you sharpen your game when you're consistently being thrown in the same slew of you-know-what, and then you have to sit there and pretend that you're bought into something that you don't agree with? That has so many more layers of frustration and toughness to it.
And the franchise that clearly didn't have that much investment in you, they gave up on you for a dude, who's 37 and falling apart at this point. No offense to Jrue, I love Jrue.
Right.
But like,
we know
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, all right, what's the next one?
All right, NBA PB. You know what?
Yeah,
no.
PBA update.
There we go.
8-3, 3-8, whatever.
A lot of things. On the Celtics needs, trade Hauser, Tillman for future, in all caps, first round pick. A bunch of big eye emojis.
Yeah.
Do I agree?
Yeah, I'm going to be quick for you on this one. No, I don't agree. I don't.
Why did I know that's where you were
I don't.
going?
Like, for one future first round pick, here's the thing. The Celtics have done a great job with Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown as far as first round picks go. But first round picks are hit or miss. You know what I'm saying? And then you're going to trade them to who? Who knows what that pick is going to be? It might be 20s. It might be lottery. You know what I'm saying? I would assume that a team in the lottery who thinks they could be in the lottery in the future years is not going to trade for Tillman and Hauser.
Yeah.
No offense Tillman hasn't done anything here in Boston, so his trade stock is down. I think he's a really good player, and I think that he's a player that could help a team in the NBA. He just didn't fit what the Boston Celtics were trying to do, which is fine. Hauser, I also think, is a really good player, but I don't think a team that's a contending team would trade a first-round pick for this. And then I don't think that a team that is non-contending would trade for this either. So it's kind of a wash.
Okay, we're lockstep. I think that it's kind of a waste of a conversation considering what I learned about the NBA draft, the different guests that we had on to break things down. John Fanta made it clear, like, if you're not picking 1 through 10 realistically, you're not really getting somebody NBA ready, and there's still a question mark next to it. Then you're talking about a completely different conversation, which I never would have guessed once you get below 10, especially considering the industry I come from. I'm like, holy crap, it's narrow to make sure that you're going to have an impact player right away and that you're not relying on your development system there. So you might think that between the name Hauser and Tillman that you're, bargaining low, but you can't ask for a future first-round pick and not make it make sense and be a payout. We're both giving that a thumbs down. Love you, though. Next, we got on the Celtics offseason moves. Power forward and the center is missing GM Brad Stevens. Let me emphasize, GM Brad Stevens is in all caps, which means he is yelling at the GM to hear him out here. What is one power forward and one center you would like to see the Celtics target?
Yeah, I'll tell you. So shout out Alvin for this question. It's a good question, and we've talked about the front court depth in nauseum at this point. I would like to see them try to go acquire Chris Boucher from the Toronto Raptors. He's a free agent this year. Somebody brought up Bol last episode, and I was like, no. But he's like a better version of Bol. I mean, this is a 10 points a game guy. Shoots 36% from the three. This is a near 7-footer. This is a guy that does a lot of KP things. You know what I'm saying? And if we're going to go out and get a power forward or whatever, it's going to be by committee, it seems like, at least for a little bit. Why not give this guy a shot? I think he needs probably a 1-year prove-it deal anyways, and this will give him an opportunity to be on a team that should be a team that makes the playoff or whatever, and he can show that he's willing to play winning basketball. So why not?
Okay, so I'm going to throw some names out there. You can give me a quick thumbs up or down or just tell me to completely hold my banner. Names at the center position that are being tossed around for off-season free agent pickups. Thomas Bryant, Indiana.
Nah, I'm all right.
You're all right. Okay. Isaiah Jackson, Indiana.
I kind of like Isaiah Jackson. I think he'd be a good fit here.
All right. We're not too mad about that. DeAndre Jordan, Denver.
No, heck no. He's ancient. He's older than dinosaur bones. Jesus Christ.
Okay, moving on. Christian Koloko?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, he's he's in the same kind of realm. He's like a young,
potential,
lanky. Same build as a Chris Boucher.
If you got to grow into your body, I don't think we have time.
I like Christian Koloko, but I'm good.
Okay, and then Precious
Achiuwa.
Achiuwa out of New York. Yeah,
I think Precious brings a lot of good energy. I think he brings a lot of the things that Brad was talking about. A guy who wants to fight, claw, and try to win basketball games. So knowing Brad's philosophy, I'm good with that.
Okay, so at least 3 out of the names that I mentioned
those are some
there.
Good names.
You didn't do the Twitch, and those are the center positions with some free agents, which I only mentioned them just considering, again, price point, bargaining, negotiation, and how they can potentially help.
Can I throw out a center?
Oh, please.
Because I threw a power forward.
My bad.
Please, Al. Please come back and help this ball. Please, Al.
You know what's funny about you saying that? I completely skipped that name on the list.
Al, please come back and help the Celtics team for just 1 year, dog, and then you can retire into the sunset. And then we can put your name in the rafters, because that's what the Celtics do for every single player that's done remotely anything here. So, Al, come back, please. And then if not, then I threw out a trade last episode. People can go watch it for Walker Kessler. I would like to see Walker Kessler.
You've mentioned that name a couple times.
Utah Jazz.
Yeah.
For a future, like building towards the future when Jayson Tatum comes back, blah, blah, blah. Great big out of Auburn.
All right, we'll talk about a 3-year umbrella. I skipped that name on purpose because I did not think that we were getting that level of bargaining. Al, please. I mean, after that performance, you owe it to the man.
Yes.
One more go. All right. Philip Hart, 6'3", 2'7".
Yep.
What up, Philip? On the Celtics future, I keep thinking 25-26 is the flyer year. 26-27 is the year to what?
Coalescence. I had to learn that word today.
Okay.
Thank you, Phil, for that. I
Kasey got
that.
a vocabulary education there.
Yeah.
And in summer 27, add a big name and go for it, 27-28. I love the breakdown here.
Coalesce. There we go.
Coalesce,
Right.
yeah. I left it to you to do all of that. Players potentially available in 2027. Now, I can understand where Philip is coming from because these names are sexy. You got Antetokounmpo, you've got the Joker, you've got Curry. Although, like, we'll get back to age in a minute. Anthony Towns,
Yeah.
Donovan Mitchell, Doncic, and then Trae Young.
And Trae Young, yeah. No, I mean, I put all those names on there for you to look at. You know, age, yes, it's Steph Curry though. Like we're like, what are we talking about? Steph Curry
I
2
can't
years from now.
argue it
like
because
Steph is Steph, you know, like he's running around screens, he's shooting threes, like it's Steph. You know what I mean? He's gonna be a good player at that age.
He's one of those guys that doesn't really age out. Is
I
that
think
what you're
it'll
saying?
be like 38, 39, you know, in the 27-28 season or something like that.
But can he play a whole season?
LeBron's 40.
I know, but like, how many times has Stephen Curry been like injured?
You're right.
You know what I mean?
You're right.
I'm all
Fair.
for it. Like,
Fair.
walked into a nephew's bedroom and it was Steph Curry photos everywhere.
Fair.
That's who Albert Neal Lacey III wanted to be.
Fair.
I wanted to be the supportive Titi, but
Fair.
then I'm like, okay, he's out again.
He won't be here because
All right.
the Warriors won't allow that.
That's true.
But if the Boston Celtics had an opportunity, Steph, I think, you know, quickly, just looking at the names that you brought up, Giannis, Jokic, those would be the ones like, okay, like we're really
To see them
we're
in
really
a
here
Celtics
now.
jersey
Yeah,
would
I
be
don't
disturbing.
think, right. I don't think Luka's going to come. Kat and Donovan Mitchell could be some good options down the line. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know why I'm like twitching towards Donovan Mitchell.
I know. I think people are down on him.
Okay, whatever.
But whatever. And then Trae Young, I don't think Boston fans want him here. You know, we talk about offense, defense, all this other stuff. Like, defensively, he's got to be one of the worst starting guards in the league, and I don't think Boston would identify with that.
He doesn't fit the DNA.
Yeah.
And we're not doing any more rentals, or at least we're trying. By 2027, I hope the Boston Celtics are no longer having rental discussions. But we'll see. And plus, speaking of what to expect from the Boston Celtics, we got to see what the young talent looks like, what some development could be looking like, which brings us to a summer league conversation. So don't go anywhere. Continue to hang with Ountae and myself here on Hold My Banner on the other side of this quick break. Back at it with Hold My Banner. It's time to talk about the guys in the lab, as the Boston Celtics posted here that you see on your screen. Do people still talk about being in the lab?
Yeah.
Like if your friends hit you up and you were actually working out.
Yeah.
Not to say you don't, but
Yeah.
not to say that you don't. I caught that after I said it on tape.
Yeah.
Would you hit them back with like in the lab?
No, that's crazy.
Thank God. I was about to be so grossed out by you.
It's crazy.
All right. Speaking of the guys in the lab, and we're not grossed out by them. I'm sorry, y'all. We've got Summer League going down. Now, we got a pretty long list here. More importantly, we've got, new draft picks in the mix. We've got some guys that can hopefully potentially start getting some of their repetitions at that NBA level. We'll see. But to not drag out this conversation, are there any names that jump off the roster list for you that's like, okay, we can keep an eye on this guy?
Yeah, I think like it's obvious, the first round, the picks from the 2025 NBA draft are obvious. I think, a guy that we haven't talked about a lot during the offseason is Baylor Shireman. This is a big summer for him, He has to be able to carve out a lane that he didn't think that he was going to have the opportunity to do. If Jayson Tatum was here, his role would probably be similar, maybe a couple more minutes to what he had last year. Now Jayson Tatum's out. That 3 spot opens up. This is a guy who's going to be asked to do a lot of the things that we talked about it when he got drafted. Can he facilitate? Can he make shots? Can he guard? Can he rebound? These are the reasons that the Boston Celtics brought him in. He's kind of, a very, very tamed down, watered down version of what we saw Jayson Tatum coming out of the NBA draft when he was drafted. So, tame.
Way to temper expectations there on tape.
Tame. I'm just saying that he can do a lot of things on the basketball court.
A mild version?
A mild, you know what I'm saying? Like Taco Bell hot sauce mild, like very mild.
At 2 a.m. with water on it. I got you.
Right. So, I think that Baylor Shireman has a big opportunity to show the Boston Celtics and Brad Stevens and Joe Mazzulla how much he has grown over the last year, what he has learned from being around Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown and those guys, and what he's learned from a championship pedigree team. If he can come in and lead this team to win some games here in Summer League and do some of the things that we think he can do, it could be a very, very big summer for him. But other than him, Kenneth Lawson Jr., a guy who's played numerous years in the G League and all this other stuff, a big that can really fill it up. He has a lot of great footwork, undersized, can do a lot of good things, rebounding as well. Watch out for him. Hayden Gray led the NCAA in steals in 2024-2025 season, which is great for him to be a part of this team. And then Jalen Bridges has an opportunity to come in here and fight with two of these guys that I know we're going to talk about with in a second. But he has wing. He can add wing depth. He could be a two-way guy for the Celtics in the future. He was on a two-way contract with the Suns last year. He's 6'7", shoots 38% from three. That's all you need to know.
I don't hate that. So before we jump into some of the competition and the two main names as well, I just want to get some insight. What's the learning curve when you bring a guy in and there's an expectation in Summer League for one, but there's some spots open, say you don't particularly want to spend some money, but what's the real learning curve development-wise and for NBA players to finally get that chance?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on the organization that you play with. I think the Boston Celtics have done an incredible job of making sure that their youth and their talent spend some time up there in Maine and learn with that G League team. They bring in Phil Pressey to be their head coach of the G League team now, which is continuity. He played for the Boston Celtics.
Love that.
He's coached with this Boston Celtics staff under Joe Mazzulla and things like that, doing player development. Now he's getting the opportunity to be the head coach of the G League team. He's been around. He's been around for the championship in 2024. He's been around for the years where the Boston Celtics sucks. He knows what winning looks like here. He knows what losing looks like here. And that's all you want to have out of a coach. I think the development process that these guys are going to have now that he's the head coach of this Boston Celtics team is going to be a lot different than what we've seen in the past.
Yeah, you got to learn how to observe and analyze lows because that's the only way you get back to those highs. So those two names that I teased, could Jordan Walsh or Miles Norris earn a real role this year? Do you want me to tell you my pick for one?
Yes, go ahead.
I'm leaning.
Okay, leaning.
Miles Norris.
Okay. I like that. I think that Miles Norris does bring a lot of good things. The only reason that I say I'm against you.
Okay.
I don't hate it. I like it
because I was leaning. I just trashed your in the lab potential.
Because I was over there really scared. yeah.
Nah, I'm into snowboarding.
Oh,
no, I'm
sorry.
kidding.
Excuse me. Okay, so we're gonna lean like this instead. All right. So, anyways, the only reason that I'm leading Jordan Walsh is because he's a little bit younger. He's been around this team for a little bit longer, you know what I'm saying? So he understands what it takes. And I feel like he brings that energy that Brad is talking about on his own a little bit more than Miles Norris. I think Miles Norris, throughout his NBA career and G League career, has kind of been nudged to bring a little bit more energy. Not Jordan Walsh. He comes from Arkansas. He played for a crazy head coach in college, and Musselman, Eric Musselman. If anybody knows, he coached Bronny at USC as well. He's a guy that brings energy immediately. You know what I'm saying?
You need no coffee around him.
Right. So if you're having those guys around, this team, automatically he's going to bring energy and effort, and he's going to make other guys like Hugo Gonzalez and the young guys, Amari Williams, whatever, when they get opportunities to play on the court, they're going to see, that's what the Boston Celtics want. Okay,
I don't hate that because honestly, any guy that has a ripple effect, it just goes back to what we've talked about. Locker room is key. On my notes, I had athleticism. Like you like a guy that's naturally athletic in a lot of ways, can use his length to be effective, but for his size, didn't like his defensive numbers. Maybe I'm getting too hung up on the defensive conversation. And it's crazy for me to do that because as a girl who was rooting for Minnesota, sorry, Boston, in a number of ways, they were too defensively, lopsided and couldn't figure it out on the other side. It's annoying. And I don't want the Celtics to fall into that kind of trap. So I don't want to be that person that just views things and always asks the defensive question. But again, considering size, considering athleticism and length, and depending on what the identity of this team is going to be, or if it's one of those, if it's a floater year, I don't want to call it tank. It could easily be a floater year. Get some guys some of that real development rep, but you've got to see them be able to fit the DNA of this team. That's why I leaned towards Norris, because you're just looking at the minutes that he has spent on the court, where his efficiency has lied, where his numbers have been for his field goal attempts. You like somebody that's kind of popping off there. Then you have the ability to edge slightly when it comes to steals and blocks in comparison to Walsh. Then defensive rebounds. So he's not somebody who's just getting too loaded up on racking up the points. Those defensive rebounds, how many key moments like that did we see in fourth quarters in the freaking postseason? Right, and that's why that kid Jalen Bridges, like I said, from the Phoenix Suns, is a real threat to both of these guys and what they do. Now I get the hint and pivot. Yes. Okay. Early read on how Boston players' development system stacks up. Honestly, I think this just continues the conversation of what we're having. Yeah. But any extra notes on the development system, or honestly, what to expect, realistic expectations for like a Hugo Gonzalez?
Yeah, what I think is important to notice about what the Boston Celtics have been able to do with their development system, when you think about a Peyton Pritchard, when you think about a Baylor Shireman, even when you think about a Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, from years and years back, is they've been able to make sure that these dudes are consistent shooters. Anytime that you took an opportunity to say, oh, Jaylen Brown can't shoot, he showed you that he could. Anytime Jayson Tatum, same thing. Peyton Pritchard ain't this, ain't that. He's became that sixth man of the year. You know what I'm saying? Baylor Shireman, oh, who is this guy? Now Boston Celtics fans love him. All because of that jump shot, and that's been a key to who the Boston Celtics are, and they're going to continue to develop that. So I think it stacks up well.
All right. I wonder what my shot looks like. We don't want to see it. We're never going to film it while I figure it out. That's for sure. But we can rank it. And speaking of rankings, we're going to do some on the other side of another break here on Hold My Banner. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you on the other side of this break. It's time for the final rally here on Hold My Banner. I feel like I'm like 4 foot in this chair today.
I know.
I promised rankings, and apparently I'm in the hot seat, aside from being the shorty in the seat, to go through these rankings. So, starting with the players, rank these players. Jayson Tatum, SGA. Anthony Edwards, Luka
Doncic. Shout out Mo Jazula for this. Mo Jazula for this. Yeah, rank those 4. Let's see. I want to see how you.
Where I'd go.
Yeah, where you go.
Where am I going with this? Okay, I swear I'm not being biased. I just feel like it's pretty wicked not to put Tatum at the top.
Okay.
And then I'm almost leaning towards like a Tatum, SGA, Luka, Ant situation.
Okay.
I don't feel totally confident about it,
That's fine.
but I'm like sitting at a solid 80.
Okay. I feel like I'm just flipping a couple.
Okay. I was waiting for the twitch. Go ahead.
Personally, I'm going to say SGA is the best player, MVP. I have to give respect to the league MVP.
That's true. I didn't want to disrespect him.
Then I will go Jayson Tatum, because that's actually how I feel.
Okay.
And anybody who wants to get mad at me, yell at me in the comments, and we can have a civil conversation, all right?
Yell at me to have a civil conversation.
Then I'm personally, and maybe people are going to say recency bias, whatever, I'm taking Ant. I'm taking Ant over Luka. I think Luka's the worst of these 4. Personally, I think you talk about how much defense matters and all this other stuff. Like
I talk about it for the Boston Celtics DNA. I'm pretty sure I had a whole soapbox when the whole Luka conversation came about months ago. It wasn't even my induction into Hold My Banner. It was like Boston has entered the chat, and like I had the unfavorable opinion.
Here's my thing, though. I mean, you can't lose with any of these 4. These are all championship pedigree level players. So
for sure,
we're nitpicking here.
That's true.
We're nitpicking. So I don't let anybody. We're nitpicking, but I'm okay. I'm rolling with these teams. So.
I just want more for Luka. That's all.
That's it. We just want to see him win.
It's simple. It's simple for me. But then it takes us to some events. Do you want us to do the
so we're
events?
going to blind rank these 5 NBA events. All right. So I'm going to start.
Try not to botch this. Okay.
You got to pick whether it's 1 being the highest or 5 being the lowest. All right. 1 through 5, wherever you think they should.
And I don't know where.
You don't know what's coming next.
I know. I tried to get him on this one a couple of times, asking questions, thinking he dropped the events.
No.
All right. I'm ready for you.
All right. First off, of course, this week NBA Summer League. Where
5.
you rank? 5. Oh, okay. Okay. 5. All right. Second, NBA Cup. The in-season tournament. Yeah.
I didn't love it.
Okay, well, you already put 5 for Summer League.
Dang, and I can't switch?
No, this is why you're blind ranking them.
Wow, I'm off to a bad start. 4.
4, okay. NBA Finals.
1.
Okay, all right. Excuse me. 1. All right. Excuse me. NBA Free Agency.
Oh,
this is where
I almost want to put that out of 5 because of what we're going through.
Okay.
Yeah, just keeping it close to home. I'm like, yeah, throw that out of 5. That could be a 3.
It's kind of fun, though. I hear some people say it's their favorite, time in the NBA.
Yeah,
free
how's
agent.
their mental?
Well, because we got we got the LeBron decision during NBA free agency. We got Kevin Durant going to the Warriors doing NBA free agency 9 years ago.
It's been a little spicy, but you see the timeline you just put on that? Like, when's the last time it was really that spicy?
I mean, there's been some spicy. I mean, Dame. We got Jrue Holiday and KP won the championship here in Boston.
Sad.
You know what I'm saying? During NBA free agency. Come on,
sad.
whatever.
It'll be a 3 for me.
And then so you have your 2 spot available, and that's NBA All-Star Weekend.
Ew. I did bad. I did a bad job.
All right, I'm gonna let you re-rank.
Okay, if I'm re-ranking
We got about 2 minutes.
NBA Finals,
Yes.
number 1.
Okay.
Number 2 would be what?
NBA Cup, NBA Finals, NBA Summer League, free agency, and All-Star Weekend.
Okay, I'll give you free agency.
Okay, free
All right.
agency at 2.
Then I'm gonna go with the NBA Cup.
All right.
Then I will do All-Star Week, and then Summer League will stay at the bottom.
Damn, Summer League getting just
It's not
Silencer
for
on
me. Not
Summer
for
League.
me. I mean,
Yeah.
look, it's important, but
Yeah.
like how much attention.
No, yeah,
You know what I mean? Like-
I understand. I get it. Hey,
If I'm being honest, I get the Cliff Notes version of what's going down
Yeah.
for Summer League, you know?
you won't be able to talk about it with me because I think Travis is on the next episode. But Bronny and Cooper Flag opening Summer League in Vegas.
Dang, can I re-rank again? Just you hold all the
I'm
good
just
cards
saying,
in terms of
you know
like
what I'm
how I
saying?
evaluate
You're over there
this.
throwing it out, and then, we get to watch you go
I'm
for
an
the
in the
first
moment
time. and
person.
I don't know about you, but I'm kind of excited. Like I know, like we didn't talk that much about NBA Summer League for the Celtics because we just ran out of time. We got so bogged up talking about Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal. But I'm excited to watch this Summer League team for the Celtics. I mean, Kenny Lofton, I didn't get a lot of time to talk about him, but NBA fans know about him, and he does a lot of great, fun things on the basketball court. He's
Okay.
he's like a round mound of rebound. But he does a lot of those things. And then Amari Williams, getting to watch the first round pick, and Hugo Gonzalez. I'm just excited. Whatever. I won't wait too much.
You're a hoop head, which is good because passion matters. And honestly, between Travis, it makes me excited to look forward to it. I love seeing them compete. I love seeing how the roster could be remolded and more. But make sure that you get all of this information here on Hold My Banner Tuesdays and Thursdays, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. That's a wrap for Ountae and myself. We'll catch you guys on Thursday.
Deuces.